Welcome back to the Circuit Revival, where today we're going to be taking a look at this Donner Noise Gate guitar pedal. So the listing said it had a damaged piece on it, which looks accurate to what we've got floating around in the box here. So let's just get this out and take a look. Okay, so it looks like this has come from this top section here, where it looks like sort of sheared off. So I don't think that's going to be able to reattach. Now I believe that's supposed to be just a toggle switch between the hard and soft gate there. So threshold on or off. So let's get the base of this off and have a look at what that's supposed to look like under there. So just 4 little screws at the bottom here, just to get the base off. So I'm hoping we have some success with this. It's been a bit of a mixed bag with guitar pedals that I've looked at in the channel really. But this one looks like it might hopefully just be a replacement part, because I'm hoping it's not broken any of the traces where it's snapped off. And then that just slides off there. That's quite nice. So hopefully this will just slide upwards, because it looks like that should just be friction fit in for the barrel jack there. But then hopefully this will just lever off here. Yep, so we can get the front of this off, and then we'll just need to undo this. Just get my pliers just to get. There we go, that'll get that started. And then there's the sort of split one is on top, just for a reminder afterwards. And then there's one screw just in the base there, so we'll get that undone. And then hopefully this will just lift out. Okay, it looks like it should just be friction fit in place for that power cable, but it doesn't look like it wants to come out. So we need to obviously undo these side bits as well, just so that we can make sure we can get the whole board out. And with those, they just have the sort of like washer there underneath. And we'll just sort of like lift up and out, so we can just undo this power cable. So all I've done is just make sure I grabbed just the white part and then pushed it up. So we can just give it a bit of a pull. Okay, there you go, I think it's going. And then that's out. So that was just friction fit in, and then the rest of this should just drop out like so. Okay, so we've lost the actual sort of like switch part of it, and I don't have any of this type of switch here, so I'm gonna have to order this in. But let's just zoom in, see if we can see this on the camera. So it's a T80T Sailcom is what that says there. The other side, looks like it's on. It's the 2 statuses. I don't know if you can see just with the reflections there. On, there we go. And the rest of it is the voltage by the looks of things. So let's just get this out, just so we can be sure we definitely get the right one. A bit of glue on the side here. So what I'll do then is, it looks like there's 6 connectors in total. I'll just use my desoldering gun and we'll just get these out. Okay, just whilst that's heating up, I might as well help it along just by adding a bit of leaded solder to each of these points. Should hopefully mean that it should come off a bit easier, because the leaded solder will have a lower melting point. Okay, there we go, and my desoldering gun is heated up there as well, so we'll just get this So some of you may have seen this in some of the videos in the past. Basically, it's got a soldering iron tip at the end and a vacuum pump inside. So we can just melt down the solder. And then the vacuum will just suck it all up. Okay, and hopefully we'll be able to just wiggle this out. So let's see whether we can just get this to come straight out. No, so some of the solder has obviously made its way through the board onto the other side and it's still caught there. So we might just need to try and heat up each bit and sort of like wiggle it out bit by bit. Let's just see if we can get any last bits out with the gun first of all. Okay, I don't think we're going to get any more out with that, so we'll just give it one last go, see whether we can wiggle it out. No. I'll try and see if I can get any of it up with some wick. So I've got some solder braid here. We'll just see whether this manages to get any up at all. Okay, it looks like it is managing to pull some through. We can always just try to add a bit of flux to this as well, see if it'll help it along. Okay, you can see just on the wick there that it has pulled some up. So hopefully this will be able to get the last of it out. I wonder whether we can try and just cut the bottom of the legs off slightly. So what I'm going to try and do is just cut down the legs a bit so there's less surface area holding it in. Need to be careful not to damage any of the rest of the board. So I probably would advise wearing some kind of eye protection when doing that. Okay, so it looks like I scratched the board just a little bit with that, but I don't think enough to cause any damage. I think it's just all the ground plane on this side. So what we can do now is try come in with the wick and the desoldering pump again and see whether it makes any difference. Because now I can actually get like into the holes a bit better. Okay, we're almost there. Just need to see if I can get a bit more off of these legs. I think it's just the middle two currently that are just a bit stuck. No, that's still very much stuck there. Try and think how we can get this out. I wonder, because it's broken, whether we might be able to just break it away from the outside and then snip the legs off the bottom and then just desolder the legs that way, because at the moment there's going to be a lot of sort of surface area holding this in place. So I wonder if I can just deconstruct this switch slightly. Okay, so I went for a slightly destructive approach there, and I've just sort of just torn the switch apart because I don't need it. It's not going to work, and it means that I can sort of reduce down the surface area of these components a bit, which means that I should hopefully be able to desolder these middle pins a bit easier. There's one. Yeah, that's it all out. So we just need to try and wick away the last of that solder in those holes there. And just see the two middle holes have still got something in it. So let's see now that it's not got the legs in there, whether we can just get the last of this out. We'll just try from the other side, see if it's any easier from this side. Okay, it's getting closer. Let's just try the desoldering pump again. Okay, there we go. It's all out now. So I just had to sort of heat it up and sort of wiggle it around a bit and try and sort of force it out. I think there's still just a little bit left of the leg in there. I think that's what was causing the problem, because it was such sort of like thick metal. It was just absorbing all the heat, so it wasn't coming out. So we'll just give this a bit of a clean up. So I just need to look for an on-on toggle switch with 6 pins that will fit this. So it'll be a little bit of time for this to arrive, but for you guys it'll be right now. So we have here the switches. So I've bought a pack. They weren't too expensive, so hopefully they are the right size. So let's get this guy out and double check. Okay, it looks to be about the right size. And that fits in nicely there. So we probably just need to get this soldered in place then. So I don't think it matters which way round it goes, because the two positions are on either way. So we'll just start by getting these bits out of the way, just the washers and such. And then we'll just place this in place. Get our soldering iron turned on. Just load up the iron with some solder. We'll start just by tacking the corners in place. That'll hold it where it needs to be, and then we can fill the rest of them. Okay, perfect. So all we need to do now is just get this back together, and then we'll just test it still powers on, and then we'll take it down to the studio for testing. Okay, there we go. It's all back together. So now just to test it still powers on, and then we'll take it down to the studio to test it works. So if we look at the polarity, we can see this is a center pin negative, and we have here the power supply, which also is a center pin negative there. So this is all correct, so we'll just get this plugged in. So we're hoping just to see a light here. Cool, so we power on. And we'll get this plugged in and see if it works then. Okay, so here we are in the studio ready to test this out. So we've got the guitar into the pedal, and then the pedal just into this orange combo amp here. So if we look at this dial, as we turn this up, it will reduce down the point at which the gate kicks in. So the lower this is to the right, the quieter it will be in theory, and as we bring it down to the left, it will let more sound through. So at the moment there is some come through. If we then bring this round, it then cuts out. So if I play a note, and then if we turn this round, you can see it cuts out there. And then as we do it, it lets more through. Now, I'm not sure if you can hear, but there's sort of a whining going on. So we're going to need to take a look at this anyway to work out what this whining is, because that sort of like ringing shouldn't exist. And then if we try change the switch, it should change how quickly it cuts out as well. So at the moment that's on soft. If we move it to hard, it should cut out quicker. But that still feels quite gradual to me. So we'll get this back up to the mat and we'll take a look at it. Okay, so here we are with the pedal back apart, and we just got a few things to test. So there's a couple of problems we had. One was the whine. Now, if I'm being honest, that could easily be the power supply that I was using, or an issue with the cables being too close together. So we probably need to test that independently. But there definitely seems to be a very subtle difference between the hard and soft mode. So the first thing I want to make sure is that this switch is actually switching. Now, I presume we wouldn't hear anything at all if the switch wasn't working, because I'm guessing it has to pass through the switch to move to wherever else it's going. going. So I think we can tell the switch is working, but I just want to double check that as we toggle it, it is switching sides and there's not just continuity throughout and it's then just stuck in one mode. So I've got my meter here, and we'll just make sure it's in continuity mode, which is the mode that beeps when we have a complete circuit, as you can see just up here as well. So what I'll do is I'll go across the terminals. So at the moment the switch is pointing upwards, so it's either going to connect between these two at the end and here, or these two at the end and the middle. So we'll start on this side and try this. Okay, so I'll continue to there, so we should have it also here and here, but we shouldn't have anything on these two. Nothing there, nothing there. Cool. Let's switch it. So we now should have it on the middle and here. Yeah, and then here and here. Okay, so the switch seems to be working absolutely fine. So we'll just have a look around, see if we can spot anything else. So there is next to this what looks to be like a variable resistor, which I'm guessing is what's determining how hard or soft it is. Given that how close it is to the switch, I wonder whether it runs through the switch and then either through this if it's in sort of like hard mode, or through the other side if it's in the soft mode. So we'll just test and see what the resistance is on these points here. So if we just try this one and this one. So it gives us about 68k and then disappeared. That could just be a connection issue. And then here and here. There's also 74k. We'll try the other one again. 74k. So down, they seem to be testing the same. Let's try between here and here. About the 67k. So yeah, I wonder if that's what determines how hard or soft it is. So to me, everything here looks like it's working fine. It just didn't feel as sort of strong as I'd expect it to be. So, or alternatively, if any of you guys have used this pedal, tell me down in the comments whether the switch seems to be acting as it is. So I expect it should be a bit harder in the hard mode. It feels like it's sort of just as soft in either of the two modes, but I've never used the pedal before, so I don't know how kind of strong the gate is supposed to be on it. Iron is up to temperature, so let's just add a bit more solder to each of these points and just make sure it's all good. So we'll just absolutely flood each of these points with solder. Okay, that's definitely nice and soldered now, so we'll just clean this up. Okay, so all of those points are definitely soldered now. There's no chance that they're not. So I'll just have a quick look around, see whether I can see anything that might be a problem from a sort of like grounding issue, because that buzz was sort of very indicative of sort of like ground noise, but like I said, that could be just as a result of the power supply or something I was using. Could be that I just had the wires laying on top of each other, so it wasn't sort of filtering out noise like it should do. But we'll just have sort of a poke around and see whether there's anything that sort of stands out to us. Okay, here we are set back up again, and I think we are all good. So first thing to test out is to see how well this works. So I've turned all the gain up, everything on the car, so this will start to feed back. So we'll turn off the gate, and if we listen, it just immediately starts to feed back. We turn it back on, it goes. So what I'll do is just balance this down here, and then we should be able to see the difference between the two modes here. So this is on soft, and if we play a note and then cut it off, we'll hear it start to ring out. So that's trying to mute it, because here there's still a ring. If we put it into the hard mode and then do the same, we can hear it sort of immediately cut out. So that's definitely all working. So we'll get it up to the mat and we can add it to the board. And also we've got rid of a lot of that ring. It was just because the cables are too close to each other, sort of like running into each other. So let's get this up to the mat and add something to the leaderboard. And so there we have it, another fix. Pretty decent pedal overall. So if anyone's looking for a small form factor noise gate pedal, it's pretty good really as far as it goes. So we can add this to our tally. That brings us up to 21. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.